Chairman, members of the committee. I guess in keeping with my usual step, I don't necessarily have a straight-up presentation set for you. I prefer to go contemporaneously a little bit. I'd like to basically speak to our accomplishments, our goals and initiatives for 2015. Certainly field any questions or concerns that anyone might have. But ultimately, I'd like to start by giving credit to my staff, the men and women of my agency who, day in and day out, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, staff the operational posts at the Union County Jail, which is located right next door to this building. It starts at the back door as far as I'm concerned. That's where last year in 2014 we allowed and we processed close to 6,000 inmate admissions that were committed to our custody by virtue of the court. It starts right there. The medical screening of those individuals, the appropriate classification of those individuals by my civilian staff upstairs in the classification unit, the continued monitoring the inmate population on the inmate housing areas, the multiple times that correctional officers interceded and prevented inmates from committing acts of self-harm or taking their own lives, the multiple times that we've broken up inmate disturbances and or defended ourselves from attack by inmates who have become assaulted and belligerent in their actions, the multiple inmate releases that we facilitate on a daily basis, the thousands of administrations of diagnosed medications to the inmate population. Probably right about this time, we finished feeding 700 and so on inmates with a hot meal, and we do that 3 times a day. There's a lot that goes on in the correctional institution that nobody ever hears about, nobody ever sees, and there's tremendous good things that happen there. Unfortunately, we're usually just beaten up and pounded with the significant events that happen that portray us negatively in the press. But I would like to give thanks to the individuals in the organization who do the job day in and day out for the citizens of this county. We feel very strongly that we're an integral part of the criminal justice system in this county. We feel that we work hard to do our best to improve certain things. Having said that, there's a lot of work left to do. For 2014, the 3 significant accomplishments I'd like to speak to would be the continuation of our monitoring and the nearly completed phase 2 construction that we've undertaken. We've basically renovated each and every single housing unit in that institution. Right now, we're at the very tail end of that phase of construction. That should complete probably within the next month. The phase 2 construction was inclusive of rehabilitation of all the inmate shower areas. While the housing areas were closed, we were able to get in there and work on all of the locking devices, all of the electronic connections that operate the cell doors, that operate the emergency exit systems. We were able to paint the entire institution. One of the most important things as well was to service and clean the HVAC system in that institution, which has resulted in a tremendous betterment of the airflow in that jail. That's a project that we're very, very happy we're coming to the end of, because it's been very, very laborious, not only from a tradesman point of view, but just delivering multiple tradesmen into and out of the jail on a regular basis, and multiple supplies and tools and equipment into and out of the jail. It's a very sensitive thing to do in a correctional institution, and my staff have done it to a tremendous degree. We're just about done with that. In keeping with that, I mentioned in the bullet points that I just want to show the vigilance that we applied towards the relocation of inmates to Hudson County. The freeholder board gave me the ability to open up that swing space, open up the housing areas for the construction by virtue of allowing me to send inmates over to Hudson County. And the numbers that were portrayed up here on the slide portray the vigilance that we've applied towards only sending what we've needed to send to facilitate that housing area closure. We allocated a lot more money than we utilized for that purpose, and I just wanted to highlight that in one of the positive things in phase 2 construction. The second thing I'd like to speak to kind of is something pretty near and dear to what we try to accomplish there. I mentioned that we have 6,000 admissions to that jail, close to 6,000 admissions to that institution this year. And I think it's very, very fair to say that we monitor, we supervise, and we care for one of the sickest populations in this county. I think it's very fair to say that any county jail monitors and supervises probably one of the sickest populations in their respective regions that they operate. We have become the de facto holding area for mentally ill individuals. We have multiple individuals that are dealing with drug detoxification, multiple individuals that are dealing with more common but very, very serious illnesses. And I think we do a very, very good job of that. We increased our medical staff complement. We've monitored that and mandated and really made sure that the face-to-face encounter between medical professionals and the inmate population increased in that regard. And this year we set out to get NCCHC accreditation. The National Commission on Correctional Healthcare establishes standards that not only deal with the quality of care that are provided, but also the record keeping that's involved, and just basically an overall oversight of facility medical administration to determine whether or not we're following best practices, best standards in the industry. And we successfully met the qualifications for accreditation. That's something that I'm pretty pleased with and I'm pretty proud of. Having said that, there's an old saying that getting the accreditation is sometimes easier than maintaining it. So we're being vigilant and monitoring and staying on top of our medical provider right now to make sure that they're continuing to meet the standards that allow for the accreditation in the first place, so we can continue with that accreditation moving forward from this point on. Another thing that I'm very pleased with is that the facility, in the 7 years that I've been here, going into my 8th, we finally have been able to receive full compliance, 100% compliance mark, if you will, with the New Jersey State Department of Correctional inspection process. A couple of things historically have held us back. Some of the things involved some of the construction that had to be undertaken, and some of the things involved us, trying to get a little bit creative to pass certain standards and get certain check marks from the state inspection. And one of the things that held us back historically, which we were able to correct this year, was an educational program for the jail. And through in-house operatives, we've been able to establish an education program in the jail that satisfies the state mandate. We administer an education program, English as a second language, adult skills, curriculums approved by the State Department of Corrections to a group of approximately 20 to 30 inmates at any given time. Given the fluidity of our inmate population and the fact that many inmates come and many inmates leave, it's difficult to maintain a certain level of stability, but we've been able to continue a population of about 20 to 30 inmates overall throughout the course of the year. That's something we're very proud of. That was something that was done without any cost to the county. It's done with an in-house social service operative who also has his teaching credential. She's volunteered our time. We've made some adjustments with staff to allow her to lend the time towards that valuable program that we have now.
Director, can I just ask you a quick question going back to your overview?
Yes.
2014, and I see you have anytime corrections comes before us, the hot button issue is always the overtime that is expended by you, and I know a lot of that is contractually related. So I see 6.5 million was budgeted in 14. We're asking for the same in 15. So the expenditure was below that in 14. Was that due to less scheduling of, less overtime hours scheduled, or was it because of the backfilling of retiring employees with lower salary employees?
That's a difficult question to answer. Currently, the contractual language does not allow me to designate who's going to do the overtime. The overtime is doled out to employees based upon a seniority mechanism, primarily seniority driven.
Which was that was noted in the controller's report that came out.
Yes, it was. It doesn't allow for a fair and equitable distribution of overtime. It allows for some individuals that are ready, willing, and able to do large amounts of overtime, and allows other individuals who may be at a lower salary bracket to do little or no overtime if they choose not to. So to answer your question, the fact that we spent 6.1 out of the budget 6.5 primarily, the primary mechanism of control for me with regard to overtime is maintaining my staffing levels. If I'm able to maintain my authorized staffing levels, I can take the overtime to the best extent possible. If I'm unable to meet my authorized staffing levels, I'm going to pay out excess overtime. That's really the primary control mechanism that I have in order to exercise my right to overtime.
Backfilling those positions once they become available.
Right. Or minimizing the number of positions that I actually have to backfill by maintaining Right. Authorized level of staff members that I have. Currently, I have 14 correctional officer vacancies. That's over 800 hours a week and over, right over that, 40 hours a week times, 14 times 40 hours a week. 600 hours a week. Right over that, if I was at my operating level, those would be positions that I wouldn't have to backfill all the time. We work towards maintaining our operating level to the best extent possible by identifying individuals, hiring them, going to correction academies when they become available. But right now, we're kind of at a loss for an academy. There's nowhere for me to send them right now. No academy, police academy that I'm aware of is conducting their class at the current time, or they're conducting one for May. At that point in time, it's best to get as many possible seats filled by young academy correctionals.
Thank you, Brian. Yeah, Fielders, any questions? I know the director has some goals for 2015 he'd like to discuss, but any questions regarding the numbers he's putting forth or the accomplishments from 2014? Continue your presentation, Director.
Three of the primary goals that we wanted, I don't want to, we're going to undertake them in 2015. The first one is moving from phase 2 of construction onto phase 3. Phase 3 was originally one of the largest components of construction. I believe large-scale plans to reconfigure the lobby area, to allow for the introduction of camera systems, things of that nature. Well, we don't have to do as much as people have speculated that we need, in my opinion. We don't need to spend the money and go to a great extent that phase 3 initially entailed. Phase 3 is going to be a 18-month period where we will replace our 3 primary interior elevators. 3 interior elevators will basically serve to move anybody in that, up and down in that building, all day long, all the meals, all the responses, facilitated, all the officers going to and from posts, all the inmates going to and from floor to floor, are accomplished through use of those 3 elevators. And I think it's very, very generous to say that at this point in time, they're extremely unreliable. We commonly operate with 2, sometimes we're down to 1. And that's a burden to our ability to maintain safety as well. It promises to utilize stairwells to respond to incidents. Sometimes it promises to utilize stairwells to deliver food services, things that we don't commonly want to undertake. We're going to down 1 elevator at a time. I personally can't wait until that first elevator is completed, because at least I know that I should not get any phone calls that were without elevators in the institution. I was running at least 1 brand new elevator in the jail, and we're going to move on to 2 and 3. But again, it's a 6-month per elevator exercise, and we can take that on, hoping that steps off in the latter part of the spring. First thing. The next thing we're going to do, which I'm going to jump back and try to give you an affiliated answer to your question about overtime and things of that nature, is we're able to significantly upgrade our camera system in the jail. Currently, we have, my memory is correct, 73 operational cameras in the facility, primarily on my 3rd floor and on the outside perimeter of the jail. We're going to move through the utilization of capital funds that were previously dedicated to the phase 3 construction project to install 380 cameras throughout that institution, top to bottom, left to right, as well as replace the current cameras, which are probably in need of an upgrade. Once that happens, it's going to allow me to take a much more efficient look and see perhaps what I might be able to do as far as internal posts and the control of overtime. If I look at a particular utilization of a person in a particular area on a camera, it doesn't seem to be absolutely necessary, totally in accordance with our hope to maintain safety. Guess what? I can either reassign that individual, or or I can eliminate that post in its entirety. We've been looking at those things on a case-by-case basis, but quite frankly, once you have a camera on this room for 24 hours a day, you're going to have an absolute reflection about what goes on in this room for 24 hours a day. And I'll be able to turn around and see how many people I might need to staff this room for 24 hours a day. And I might turn around and be able to make a determination that I don't need the number of people who previously committed to ensure safety in this room for that 24-hour period. So not only will the installation and the significant upgrade of our surveillance system promote safety and compliance by both the inmate population and by the people and everyone that work in that institution, it's also going to give me a tool to evaluate what's going on in that place 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and really start to make some decisions in regard to staffing.
So, Director, how much flexibility will you have given the posts that are required, the plans that have been in place for many years, through contractual, anything that prohibits you contractually from making changes as you see fit as a result of that?
As the administrator of that jail, until somebody tells me something different, if I see that there's not a need for an operational post, I can eliminate it. I can either eliminate it in its entirety, or I can turn around and say, you know something? Al, I know you've had this post for the last 8 years.
Let's use an extra name.
After 8 o'clock, it doesn't seem like you're doing a whole heck of a lot after 8 o'clock, for one reason or another. So guess what? After 8 o'clock, you need to go and work with Bruce over here, because his area is very active after 8 o'clock. Or maybe I don't need your post at all now. I just have an epiphany and I find that.
I hope you have that flexibility. I hope you can
Well,
do that.
it's not. I don't think it's a matter of. Yeah, it's just a matter of really being able to, you know, the one thing I'm never going. I'll walk out of this room before I compromise anybody's safety. Quite frankly, very simply. But I've been in this profession my entire adult life, and until I know, I think a lot of things. And sometimes I'll make decisions based upon what I think. But when it comes to safety, I'm only going to make decisions based on things that I know. And once I know, by virtue of viewing certain camera footage, things like that, then I'll be very comfortable. And I'm very solid ground to make certain decisions.
Good, well, you'll have my support on that one.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to add, we're working very closely with our Labor Council on this issue. And if we believe that it is an area where we have authority, where Brian has administrative prerogative, we're going to exercise that and perhaps even push the envelope if that's going to help us in the case. But we're making sure we're on solid legal ground.
Okay, good. Oh, I'm sorry.
Builder Strada.
I go right, left.
I try to be balanced, fair and balanced, like Fox did.
Director, usually your presentation was outstanding. Is there a phase 4?
I hope not.
I just want to make sure that we know
no.
phase 3 should be the last.
No. As you know, we gutted and totally replaced our kitchen. That's working very, very well. And not only is it working well, but we're maintaining it. The housing areas themselves are totally refurbished, are totally repainted, and totally, they look like new housing units. It's really a marked difference in before and after. And let's not forget, I mean, the jail was designed for 517 individuals, and we commonly have well over 1,000 individuals in the institution. So those showers and everything in that institution was used to a point well beyond what it was actually constructed for. So we had deterioration over the lifespan of that jail, having been open, I believe, 89 or 90, and it's definitely been overused to a certain extent. But now we're back on top of it, maintaining what we've improved upon. We fixed the kitchen, we moved on to the housing units, we're going to move on to the elevators, which is going to be a very difficult, I mean, it's a total replacement of all 3 elevators, motors, cars, everything. And at that point in time, and also we're doing the roof. We have roof leaks that we're dealing with now that are being addressed now under phase 3, as well as the chiller replacement, which is a massive HVAC system which provides air conditioning heat. Has to be lifted up those things, continue to maintain the place the way we maintain it. Hopefully it'll be a long time before we're going to take a massive use of capital dollars towards a large scale construction project.
Couple more questions. One is, I recall, I guess it was phase 3 that would address the issue of people having to wait outside, in essence, to provide visits. Is that being addressed on the
Phase three did call for the accommodation of visitors to an altered lobby setup where we were going to move the control center over onto the other section of the institution itself. Number one, we have less individuals actually coming to the jail to visit inmates now because we have probably close to between 250 and 300 less inmates in our building at any given time. And one of the last goal initiatives that I was going to speak to was the technology visitation initiatives that we want to move forward with at the jail to allow for a video visitation system at the jail, which will allow for individuals to either come to the jail and have scheduled video visitation visits, or they can have video visitation visits from off-site with the use of a smart device or a laptop computer, smartphones, things of that nature. So that'll ultimately greatly chip away at the number of people who would come to the jail in the first place. And if they did choose to come to the jail, or did have to come to the jail because of lack of that type of technology at home, they would come on a scheduled basis to the point where they wouldn't have to wait outside for periods of time during horrible and cold weather.
So in other words, the issue has been addressed in terms of controlling the amount of unnecessary people having to wait outside.
Absolutely. We're not going to have the types of lines and everything else if and when we get a video visitation system in the jail.
So give us a quick update on what else the impact it's had on the management.
I spoke to that a second ago by the numbers in our population that's decreased. In 2012, our average daily population was 897, so let's just throw 900 out there. And as of 2015, our average daily population is 721. So that significantly reduced the cost of our medical services, medications that have to be distributed, food, linens, uniforms, a number of things, and that's driven us towards a $1 million reduction in our operating budget this year. It's also something that we're happy about, and we anticipate. We just went out to bid for our inmate medical services. I believe the bids were due back today. Based upon the competitiveness of that business, I would like to think we can save more money in the future, depending on who gets the contract. We'll be vetting the submissions, the bid submissions, and we'll probably be up in front of you sometime in the near future with a request for awards. And again, the inmate technologies piece that I'd like to move forward to, pursuant to a bid process, will award the ability to provide our inmate telephone services, video visitation services, provide a computerized jail management system for our operational needs, as well as provide a public answering system for constituency services, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. People will be able to get mail information, court appearance information, by virtue of touching certain buttons and going through a certain narrative that's provided on the telephone system. Just trying to move a little bit forward every year with improving the operation of that place.
Thank you.
Freeholder Kowalski, you have a question?
Yes, Director Reardon, about the video visitation, we charge inmates for the telephone calls, so are you thinking of charging for video visits, or is?
We're thinking of giving people the option of being able to visit, video visit with an acquaintance or a loved one multiple times during the week if they so choose, without having to come to the Union County Jail. For those individuals who don't have the technological ability to avail themselves with a video visit, they'll be able to get a free on-site visit that we will schedule, and that will dictate them coming down to the county jail at a scheduled time to prevent them from having to wait outside unless they want to get there early. But I think it'll be a much more fluid system, and it can, and I believe it will result in some additional revenue to the county.
How many times, so is there a weekly entitlement to having a visitor, or does an inmate in the?
There are multiple days, during the week. We may have visits with inmates with last names A to L and then Z, different times of the week. And individuals commonly only not allowed to have more than one visit per day. Effectively, with the video visitation system, if there's a young man or a young woman incarcerated in that facility and they want to say goodnight to their 2 or 3-year-old daughter each and every night through the facilitation of a video visit, and the opening is available, they'll be able to do that. They'll actually have more of an opportunity to interact with family members. The price of a video visitation is not that much. I don't even know if it's more than a phone call, to be quite honest with you. By the time you come down to Elizabeth, whether through public transportation or via your own vehicle and pay for parking, it's probably a wash cost-wise to have a 15-minute video visit from a smartphone or a tablet device or a laptop computer. And again, for those individuals that don't have the ability to do that, we would allow people to come to the county jail and have a free video visitation visit under the same types of constraint. You know, we couldn't have that 24 hours, not 24 hours. Similar to our visit schedule now, because we'll only have a allotted number of units to facilitate the free utilization of the visitation. Or we can add on to that if it seems to be a need. That's what we're for.
Thank you, Chairman. In reference to the video visitation, are there any other counties that currently have that in place?
Cumberland County,
And what's the success rate of that when it comes to those other counties?
well, I think it's something that you can get creative with these things. I live in Cumberland County, so I know some of the things that they do there. It's my understanding that they've affiliated themselves with certain churches and religious providers to put some of these portable units in the churches themselves, so that the people that might not have the technology at home, but are willing and able to pay for it, don't want to call over to Elizabeth for a free visit, might be able to go to a religious institution and partake in a video visitation. It really is, it's a matter of, from a security standpoint, the fewer people that I have to allow into the inner perimeter of my facility, the better off I'm going to be from a security perspective. From a humane perspective and from a re-entry perspective, or a rehabilitative perspective, the more contact you can facilitate between loved ones and family members and the inmate population, the better off you're going to be. So this does open up a much, much wider window of opportunity for individuals to maintain contact with people on the outside. And it doesn't, we're never going to restrict anybody from being able to communicate. We'll have a free component for those individuals that qualify for that type of so, but it's my understanding that it's something that is well received by members of the community because of the convenience, and it's well received by the inmate population because of the increased amount of times and the increased window of opportunity you can avail yourself of that service. So we'll see how it works out.
Sounds great. Thank you, Chairman.
I think I kind of touched on the last piece, which was the goals and initiatives, the upgraded surveillance system, the completion of phase 2, moving on to phase 3, and then those 2 contracts, which is the intelligence, the technology component, and the awarding of the medical contract going forward in 2015. And again, speaking to what brought up with luminosity is the fact that our inmate population is down and our operating expenses are down in accordance with that. And we're going to continue to try to maintain those numbers.
Well, Director, thank you very much. We'll let you know in regards to this proposal, and we appreciate the strides that you and the jail administration continue to make to keep costs down. Very interested to hear about potential costs through the cameras, the cost savings through utilization of cameras, and potentially eliminating unnecessary and expensive posts.